Shalom, WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah Talk. A little bit unusual this week. We're reading Parshat Vayera as we continue tracing the lives of Abraham and Sarah, and now starting Ishmael and Isaac and Hagar, their children. And our Torah Talk today is going to be a little bit of a review from my talk in Shul on Saturday. The topic was Anti-Semitism, and it is important to address at this moment, not only because of the terrible spike in anti-Semitism in this country and around the world. Over the last few weeks, particularly celebrities saying all kinds of awful things, who have lots of Twitter followers and Insta followers, and also because I'm recording this on Thursday, but tomorrow, Friday, tonight and tomorrow are the anniversary of Kristallnacht. And it is particularly jarring to see and witness the rhetoric being used against Jews on this anniversary of one of the worst nights in the history of anti-Semitism, and which led, of course, to the Shoah, the worst incident in the history of anti-Semitism. It's amazing, really. The Jews, right? There's about 14 million Jews in the world today, only 0.2% of the population. And you would think, such a small number of people, why would there be so much hate targeted at the Jews? But one thing about hate, and all hate is the same, there's never a rationale for hate. However, all the best lies that the haters use, all the best lies that anti-Semites and racists and all of them use, there's usually the best ones have a little bit of truth in them, and they build out their insane rationales from this kernel of truth. So what's the kernel of truth that anti-Semites use? We see it first among Pharaoh, right? He has his big lie is that the Jews, right, we'll read this in a few weeks when we get to Parshat Shemot, that the Israelites came down just 70 people. We know they multiply greatly to 2 million people. And Pharaoh says, look at how many Jews there are among us now. We better deal slyly with them. Otherwise, they may become our enemies and become a fifth column in our midst. Now, the truth is there were a lot of Jews in Egypt at the time. The false is the Torah doesn't say anything about them being any kind of threat to Pharaoh or anything like that. But Pharaoh, the first and archetypal anti-Semite, he knows just a little bit of truth. There's a lot of Jews mixed with a bunch of lies. They're dangerous somehow, can lead to his ability to enslave the people and get his cheap labor and all the awful, awful things, leading to genocide of Jewish children and finally the Exodus. So what's the big lie today? The big lie today that's based on some truth. So as I said, there's not a lot of Jews in the world. Very few. So few that one guy publishing a book wanted to take Judaism out of the major world religions. I think that was changed because of the influence is sometimes greater than the number of people. And obviously Judaism has been an influential religion. So what's the big lie? What's the truth that the big lie is based on? So the truth is that Jews, small number though they are out to try and have disproportionate influence on the world. That is true. That is true. And we'll see it in last week's Parsha and this week's Parsha. But the lie is that the Jews want to use that influence for some nefarious, self-interested purpose. That couldn't be further from the truth. So what is the purpose of the Jewish people? We see it in last week's Parsha. God came to Abraham and Sarah, and he said, right, go be a blessing. So we're supposed to bring blessing into the world. And then later God comes and he says, right, I am a shield to you. Magen Avraham, by the way. Those of you who daven the Amidah know that that's the first blessing of the Amidah. It comes from here. I am a Magen to you. Your reward shall be great. And Abraham says, what reward? I don't even have a kid yet. My servant is going to inherit me. And God says, that person is not going to inherit you. He takes him outside and shows him the stars in the sky. He says, look toward the heaven and count the stars. If you are even able to, so shall your offspring be. It's a famous promise made to Abraham. Your offspring will be like the stars. Now, often that's taken as a numerical promise, as plentiful, as many as the stars in the sky and the sands of the sea. But that doesn't seem to work out, because the Jews in the entire history of the world are never more than a fraction of the population of the world. So commentator after commentator asks, what does this mean if it's not actual numbers? And we have lots of commentators who say things like, let's see, Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi Mecklenburg, right, a 19th century Jewish commentator. He says, if you can count them, limnot. Says limnot doesn't only mean to count, but it actually means to ascribe importance to. And so, Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi says, God is telling Abraham that his people are going to be important in the world. That's, I think, proved true. The Jewish people have been important to the history of the world. Rav Naftali Tzvi Berlin, dean of the great yeshiva in Volozhin, takes a similar approach. Right? He says that how will they be like stars? Stars radiate light. And so too, Abraham's descendants, the descendants of Abraham and Sarah, will radiate light into the world. That's an amazing idea, right? Because just like the stars, actually so far away, radiate very little light, and yet provide a map for ships to guide themselves and a constancy that is in many ways comforting in the world. So too, the Jews, few in number though they may be, small though they may be, will cast an amazing amount of light. And, light is amazing that way. One candle can light a room. A few candles can light a huge room. And so too, the Jewish people will be. That is our purpose, to shine light into the world. So yes, we are a people with a purpose, a small people with a grand purpose. That is the truth. But the lie is that any of that purpose has to do with the upholding of the Jewish people, the success of the Jewish people. We are on a mission from God for humanity. Nothing less than that. And the haters, the anti-Semites, who take this small truth and then perjure themselves with these lies, ultimately are doing a disservice to the world. And we see this, it continues in Parshat Vayera, as we get the stories of Abraham and Sodom and Amorah, and Abraham arguing for the innocents in Sodom and Amorah, holding God to account. We even see it in the Akedah, the binding of Isaac in this week's Parsha, so hard to understand, and yet obviously a message reverberating to the world, a message of faith, a message of that we will not permit child sacrifice, that God's not interested in that, and sort of making a demonstration of it, and lots and lots and lots of other explanations, all of which to say there's a message of ethics and morality and values that come from God through the Jewish people, through Torah, into the world. That is the mission of the Jewish people. So the question is, what do we do? What do we do as people point fingers at us and tell lies about what the purpose of the Jewish people are, what the purpose of Jews all over the world are, whether it's in Israel or in the rest of the world? What do? We keep doing Jewish. We keep being Jewish. That's what we have done for thousands of years. If God's promise to Abraham and Sarah was survival and that you would continue to be important, that promise has been kept. Here we are, their great-great-great-great-grandchildren, still trying to bring values into the world, still trying to do tikkun olam, still trying to help people see the presence of holiness in the world where there's so much ugliness and pain, to raise up and shine that light into the dark corners of the world. The world needs us now, maybe more than ever. Certainly as much as ever. As this anniversary of Kristallnacht comes, as this anniversary of the rise of dictatorship, and mistaken Jewish values, evil being put into the guise of morality. This is the time when Jewish people need to speak up, cannot be cowed. Need to say life is more important than anything. Need to say that wrong-minded dictators, fascists, looking for more power, looking to put more people under their thumb, that is not acceptable, that no good ever comes from it, whether it was Pharaoh or Hitler or until today. The world needs the message of the Jews today. Anti-Semitism is only one more symbol, and the rise of anti-Semitism is only one more symbol that the world needs us. And so, may we all embrace our Judaism. May we all embrace those Torah values, shine our light into dark places, raise up those who are weak and downtrodden, help those in need. Not just Jews, that's not the mission, but all of humanity. And as we do, not only will anti-Semitism once again be quelled, but the whole of humanity will be raised up. That is our purpose. Purpose of a small people. May we have success in it. Shabbat Shalom.